2025 was the sixth year in a row of a summer cycling trip with friends. This was the fifth year in a row of what we've come to know as our gravel retreat. This year we went to Madison County, Iowa, and stayed in Verbo right outside of Winterset, Iowa. So the 2025 edition became known as the Madison County Gravel Retreat, or MCGR. For our day one ride, we had a route planned of just over 40 miles and about 2,200 feet of climbing. We were going to see two of the Madison County bridges this day. The house we rented was an old farmhouse with a driveway that was 0.6 miles long, and it was set down a valley, so every day we had to climb out of the valley to get the ride started. Since we're in Madison County, we planned to visit all of the Madison County bridges because it seemed like the thing to do. One of the bridges, the Hollowell Bridge, was right by our house, so we rode over it the first day and passed it just about every day. In this section of road, we turned a corner and these cows started running next to us, so we had to stop and say hi to them. Once we started riding again, they kept running beside us for a ways. Most of the gravel roads that we rode in Madison County were champagne gravel. A lot of climbs with some really fun long descents. There were probably more cars we came across than we do in the gravel roads around Omaha, but the drivers were all super friendly, most of them waving and almost all of them slowing down as they went by. It's always important when you see a sign that says MMR and dead end that you continue down the road and see what's there. We were trying to be smart and sat at the corner for quite a while discussing should we go down the road that says dead end or reroute. Of course, we had to check it out. We did finally get to a spot that didn't look very passable, and for once we made the smart decision and turned around rather than carrying our bikes and getting them all muddy. This is bridge number 2 on the day. You can see a lot of graffiti on the walls, and if you look up top, there's fire suppression systems. Apparently there's been a lot of cases of arson on these bridges. There were quite a few of the roads that we rode on that had pretty good tree cover, or at least lined with trees. Not what we're used to seeing around Omaha. While a lot of minimum maintenance roads will have some pretty sketchy descents or big climbs, we found one that was almost entirely flat. Here's another opportunity to make a bad decision.
Yeah!
While we went through a couple sketchy sections, we finally got to something that we decided we should no longer go on. We turned around, rerouted. The reroute was great, other than the 17% climb we had to go up. But we avoided getting too much mud on our bikes and having to carry them. We made it back though, and it was a successful day number 1. Because of the reroutes, had a little bit more miles than we originally planned, and of course elevation with Ride with GPS was not too accurate. On day 2, we planned to ride just over 60 miles, with Ride with GPS saying about 3,600 feet of climbing. This route was originally created by Rob Evans, and we modified it to start from our rental. Rob has a dedicated video to just this route on his No Coast Gravel Syndicate YouTube channel. This is the first of the Madison County bridges that we'll see today. This one is at the Winterset City Park. The park had some cool windy roads. There was some big steep descents and big steep climbs. At the far end of it was the clock tower. You could tell at the beginning of the day that it started out foggy, and this was a nice area down a valley that still has the fog hanging around. Pamela State Park was the highlight of the day with the water crossing. There was some question whether we could actually cross it, but Brett decided to just send it, and we were able to make it across, and glad we did. It was a great adventure. Decided to put in here both the video that I recorded as well as the one Brett recorded of Sean and I both crossing, because it was such a great experience going across and something I'd never experienced on a bike. Not one of the covered bridges, but a bridge nonetheless. Here's our second covered bridge of the day. While they were neat to see, the bad part about them is bridges are in valleys, so we got to great descent to get to the bridge, but then awful climbs to get out of the bridge. Here's bridge number 3 in the day. Don't know if you notice a pattern, but I always seem to be at the back. This was easily my hardest day of the week. I was not feeling great on the bike. At one point when we stopped to rest, we were just standing there taking a drink, and I noticed this spider web, which is about the most perfect spider web, so I had to get a picture of it. And here comes bridge number 4. This one looks a little different than the previous two. And that wraps up our day number 2 ride. We ended up just over 61 miles with right about 4,000 feet of climbing on the day. Day 2 was a tough day, and there was a nice bike path going into Des Moines, so we decided to ride about 40 miles into Des Moines. There was about 1,100 feet of climbing on the fully paved bike path. Some of it was blacktop that was not as pristine as the concrete, but very nice bike path. When we got to Martinsdale, which is where the bike path started, there was a big rainstorm coming through, which delayed our start by about 30 minutes, but after that, no rain the rest of our ride, and it was really a pretty beautiful day. Once we got into Des Moines, there was a little bit more foot traffic, but not too bad. There was a small section of crushed limestone that was pretty muddy, so on the way back we avoided that and found another cool little bridge. At one point on the way back, someone decided we should pace line, so we spent much of the time in a pace line pushing the pace. which kind of defeated the purpose of a recovery ride. On the non-gravel ride of day 3, we did about 41 miles with 837 feet of climbing. And on the last day, day 4, we tried to map out the flattest route we could on gravel roads, which would be about 36 miles and 1,800 feet of climbing. On 4 days of cycling, this is the one dog that came out into the road after us, and all it wanted to do was live with Sean for the rest of its life. We saw a decent number of deer throughout the week. Here's 2 of them hanging out in the road. As Sean and Brett start to take off, I thought, we're not doing this, are we? But of course we are doing this, so I had to catch up. For our last day, we ended up with 36 miles and just over 1,800 feet of climbing. So for our weekly total, we were 177.5 miles and 8,767 feet of climbing. And that wraps up another great gravel retreat.